Yeah, why don't you get to somebody who's got a lot better insight on sports?
So here's the thing, Jeff. The last thing that I thought we'd be talking about Memorial Day 2021 is the New England Patriots and Spygate from over a decade ago.
And Arlen Specter.
But then host and executive producer at ESPN's Backstory, Pulitzer Prize winning author, senior reporter, I could go on with the list, Don Van Natta, does what he always does, some amazing work. Don, thanks for giving us some time. For our listeners who aren't familiar with it yet, can you tell us a little bit about why Arlen Specter and Spygate are in the news again?
Well, thanks, guys. We dropped a story this week that really, I think, pulls the curtain back on one of the unsolved mysteries of the Spygate scandal, and that is there was an offer made to Senator Arlen Specter, who, if you guys remember, did a one-man investigation in the Senate of the Spygate, the Patriots Spygate situation in 2008. It spooked the NFL. It really bothered Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. And there was a single line in a memoir that Specter wrote in 2012 where he said somebody, a mutual friend of his and Robert Kraft's, told him, if you lay off the Patriots, there will be a lot of money for you in Palm Beach. That line intrigued me for years, and my co-author on the piece, Seth Wickersham, and finally we were able to determine that mutual friend of Specter and Kraft, who offered money that some people thought was a bribe, was none other than Donald Trump. And so we reported that this week for the first time.
So that's the thing, Don. I mean, look, you're an investigative reporter. You have a great show in Backstory, and if people haven't seen it yet, you've got to see it. They are great stories, but how does that kernel stick in your head and then you say, I'm going to go try to dig that down?
Well, in 2015, Wickersham and I did a piece about Deflategate, and we kind of tried to figure out why Roger Goodell and the NFL hammered Tom Brady with that 4-game suspension over nothing more than a few deflated footballs. It seemed pretty much punitive and that there was something else going on. And we figured out then that there were a lot of NFL owners that felt as if the Spygate punishments were way too lenient. And in doing that story, we went back and looked at the Specter investigation, and that line in that book stuck with me, and little by little over the years kept digging. I went to the University of Pittsburgh, where Specter's papers are housed in the archives there, found all sorts of connections between Specter and Trump that were fascinating. And then finally we were able to get a couple of key people on the record, including Arlen Specter's son, Shannon, who is a Philadelphia lawyer, a highly regarded Philadelphia lawyer, who said his dad told him that, yes, it was Donald Trump, who said he was acting on behalf of Robert Kraft, by the way, and offering campaign contributions if Specter would drop that Spygate investigation. And so we laid it all out in a lengthy story that was posted this week on ESPN.com.
And so obviously this was long before he was president in terms of when it happened, but people may ask, why would the NFL have somebody, or Bob Kraft have Donald Trump get involved? Can you talk about just how concerned the NFL was by Specter's investigation? He wanted sort of a George Mitchell independent investigation, and they were worried about antitrust issues and other issues. And from what I read in your piece, Specter was very animated about, why did you destroy the tapes? Why did you conduct the investigation that you did? Can you talk about that backstory that connects why a Donald Trump or Bob Kraft would try to reach out to even do that?
Well, first of all, as you guys may know, Arlen Specter was a Philadelphia district attorney. He was a lifelong Eagles fan. So he was a angry, pissed off Eagles fan, upset that the Patriots beat his favorite team in the 2005 Super Bowl. And when he found out that there was this Spygate operation that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were running for the Patriots, he wanted to get to the bottom of it. He was angry as a prosecutor, as a former prosecutor, at how quickly the NFL investigation got shut down. Remember, Roger Goodell penalized the Patriots and Belichick with fines, and also took away the team's number one first-round draft pick. But Specter was like, well, wait a minute, you guys also destroyed the evidence. And Specter felt there was a cover-up and that there was never a determination by the NFL how many games the Patriots won through this cheating operation. So it completely spooked Roger Goodell, who had just gotten his job, by the way. Goodell became commissioner in 2006. He dealt with the Spygate scandal in 2007. It was his really first big scandal he had to deal with as commissioner. Robert Kraft, as the Patriots owner, was a guy who helped Goodell get his job. So both Goodell and Kraft were worried about what Spygate was going to do to the NFL's bottom line. The investigation got shut down very quickly. Specter wanted answers, tried to conduct this one-man investigation in the Senate. He did interview Goodell, but nobody from the Patriots ever were questioned by Specter, and he just felt it was a cover-up. And so this completely worried Robert Kraft. It worried Goodell. And so our reporting shows that Donald Trump thrust himself in the middle of this, possibly as a way to ingratiate himself with Robert Kraft, who he was friends with, by the way. And as we know, Donald Trump also wanted to be an NFL owner and offered what some people believed was a bribe to Senator Specter for this to all go away, maybe as a way to try to score points with his buddy Robert Kraft.
Didn't Robert Kraft give Donald Trump a Super Bowl ring?
No, it's actually Kraft had one of his Super Bowl rings taken by Putin.
That's right.
It wasn't Trump, it was Putin. So there was a lot of commentary when our story dropped this week, guys, about that. People were drawing, connecting dots on that. Well, okay, this is a really bizarre thing. Then maybe that puts that incident in a new light. But our story goes into a lot of depth about the friendship that Trump had with Specter. They were friends. Trump was a campaign supporter with campaign contributions of Specter dating all the way back to the 80s. In 2008, just as Specter was thinking of launching his Spygate investigation, Specter had dinner with Trump and his wife at Mar-a-Lago, actually on the Sunday of the AFC and NFC championship games in 2008. In March of 2008, while Specter's conducting his investigation of Spygate very publicly and, spooking the NFL, Specter had a book party in Philadelphia, and the co-host was Donald Trump. So we lay all this out in a lot of detail in the story, and I think it's a pretty intriguing chapter in NFL history that was never known, that Trump played a behind-the-scenes role in this investigation that really bothered both the NFL and Robert Kraft.
Well, look, Arlen clearly thought that there was a cover-up. So now the question becomes, unfortunately, Arlen's gone. You're writing this story. Did you get any pushback from the NFL, Robert Kraft, or Trump about this story?
No pushback from the NFL, interestingly. We did seek comment from both Donald Trump and Robert Kraft. Trump's spokesman, Jason Miller, told me this is completely false and we don't even know what you're talking about. For his part, Robert Kraft said through a Patriots spokesman that Kraft, never asked Trump to act on his behalf. So we have denials from both Trump and Kraft. But we went with the story because Shane Specter, as I said earlier, the son of Arlen Specter, heard it directly from his father in real time. His father said, yeah, this offer that I was made, that I wrote about in my book, although I didn't identify Trump in my book, was made by Donald Trump on behalf of Robert Kraft. It was campaign contributions that would be given to make this investigation go away. And we had that on the record, as well as a ghostwriter for Specter named Charles Robbins, who was also on the record saying that, and he heard it directly from Specter, by the way, that the person was Donald Trump.
And then in 2010, what I found interesting is after all of this happens, after Specter tries to investigate, Specter calls Kraft for a donation, and Kraft's still pissed off. So he decides that he wants to meet with Specter, and they meet. Can you talk about that part?
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's one of the things I found so fascinating about this. So think about this. So Robert Kraft is furious at Arlen Specter. Specter gets this offer for his investigation to go away, says there's no way I'm taking this money, and yet 2 years later he has the chutzpah to call Kraft and ask for a campaign contribution. I don't know what Specter was thinking. Maybe he's thinking, okay, maybe Kraft will be in the mood to write me a check because I shut down the Spygate investigation without taking money from this other offer from Trump. And yeah, Kraft agrees to this meeting. They meet in a Boston hotel suite in May of 2010. And basically, it's a chance for Kraft to just vent to Arlen Specter of how unfair Specter was with this investigation and all the horrible things he said about the Patriots and the cheating and the cover-up and everything else. And yet Specter still asks Kraft for money, and Kraft doesn't give him $1. It's kind of the way Washington works, I guess, right? I mean, you get an offer in 2008 that you don't accept, and then you look to try to get money from somebody who you were investigating 2 years later.
You gotta love Washington, D.C. So we wanted to ask you another question that came up on the news yesterday. As somebody who's been a reporter for a long time, part of being the best part, to me, the best part of being a reporter is the interaction with the athletes and the owners and people like that. You saw the comments that Naomi Osaka made yesterday, and we were curious to get your perspective of what you thought about that.
Well, first of all, the fact that Naomi Osaka has said she does not want to participate in press conferences at the French Open because for mental health reasons, certainly you got to respect that, right? You got to, right. It's hard to come down too hard on her for not wanting to participate. But having said that, it's also, there's rules for players in all sports to participate in these press conferences for a reason. It's the fans who pay the salaries in large part. It's also TV money, obviously, but the fans are really responsible for the popularity of all these sports. I'm old school and feel as if every athlete should participate. I mean, they certainly have the right to say no or not answer certain questions, but look, access has been a bigger and bigger problem for sports journalists like me. The Players Tribune now, and there's many other ways where athletes can tell their stories directly to fans through their own documentaries. LeBron James has his own production company, and a lot of other people do this too, and they cut us out. The one opportunity we have is during these press conferences after a game to really get the perspective, and we're there on behalf of the fans. So I'm old school and feel as if there's a way that she could do it, even in a limited way, that's the way it should be.
Well, and even the press conferences are different in the age of COVID, where some of them are on Zoom and the reporters don't get that time after practice close with the athletes because of everything. So it does make it more challenging for you as a reporter to do your job. Don, we always love the time, and we definitely enjoy the content you're putting out. Thanks for taking us back to a little bit of Spygate and giving us a few minutes to go over it. You have a wonderful holiday weekend.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate the kind words. Enjoy your holiday weekend.